everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is PassioKnit Kelsie. Today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet a granny square in a solid color as well as how to do a multicolor granny square. For this tutorial today you're going to need a yarn needle of some kind. You're going to need a hook. I'm going to be using a 6mm crochet hook, but you can just use whatever hook is recommended for your yarn. You're also going to need some scissors, and then obviously we're going to need to have some yarn with us. I am using Red Heart Super Saver yarn. This is a worsted weight yarn, also known as a 4-weight yarn. And then right here next to that, it should show you what hook size is recommended for that yarn. So I'm using a 4-weight yarn. The recommended hook size says 5.5, but I'm using a 6 just so it'll be a little bit easier to show you guys what we're doing. I have two colors here because I'm going to show you how to make a solid color square as well as a multicolor square. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're just going to be starting with our purple yarn today because we're going to do the solid color granny square first. I'm going to take the end of my yarn and I'm going to start with a magic circle. So I'll hold the end of my yarn with my right hand. I'll put it into my left hand like this to where the end is towards my pinky. I'm going to grab onto it with my pinky and my ring finger because what I want to do is I want to turn my left hand over like this. I want to hold my yarn with my right hand and I want to wrap it around my two fingers on top, under, and then come back across and make an X like this. And then I'm going to just tuck this yarn away under my pinky just to hold it in place. Now I'm going to pick up my hook. I'm going to put my hook under this piece of yarn right here. Should be the one on the bottom. I'm going to use my hook to grab this piece of yarn here that is on the top. And I'm going to pull it through like this. So now I have a loop on my hook. I'm going to take my hook and grab that same piece of yarn again. I'm going to pull it through the loop on my hook. And now everything is secure, so you can go ahead and drop your fingers out of there. So now you should have a circle with a yarn end on it and a loop on your hook that's ready to go. So to start with our granny square, I am going to do a stacked single crochet. So basically, I'm going to go through my magic circle loop and I'm going to be crocheting over both of these strands here, my loose strand and my loop strand. And I'm going to do a single crochet. So I'm going to go through the loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and that is a single crochet. Now to do a stacked single crochet, I will go through the front leg of this single crochet that we just did, this little loop right here. Now I'm going to do another single crochet, so I'll yarn over, pull through the loop, yarn over, pull through both loops, and that is my stacked single crochet. So this is going to count as my first double crochet in every round. From here, I want to make my first cluster of 3 double crochets. So I have 1 and I need to make 2 more. So I'll just yarn over, go through my magic circle, yarn over again, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, just to make a regular double crochet. I need 1 more, so I'll do another double crochet into my magic circle. And now I should have 3. So this right here, this is my stacked single crochet. That counts as my first double crochet. Here's my second double crochet, and here's my third double crochet. Okay, so this is our first side of our square. Now we need to make a corner. So I'm going to chain 2. That is going to be our corner space. Now I need to make my next side of the square. So I'm going to put 3 double crochets into my magic loop. It's 1. There's 2. And there's number 3. So we have our first side of our square here. There's our corner space. Here's the second side of our square. Now we should make another corner space, so I'm going to chain 2. Next, I want to make my third side of my square, so I'm going to do 3 double crochets into my magic circle. That's 1. There's 2. And there's 3. So now my square has 3 sides. I need to make another corner space, so I'm going to chain 2. And then I need to make my last side of my square, so I'm going to put 3 more double crochets into my magic circle. And there we go. We have all 4 sides. The only thing that we're missing is our last corner space. So I'm going to chain 2, 1 and 2. And then to finish off this square, I'm going to slip stitch into the top of our first double crochet, which is actually a stacked single crochet. So I'm going to go through the top of the stitch, go through both loops, yarn over, pull through both loops, pull through the loop on your hook, and then from here I'm going to tighten that stitch down. And that is your first round on the granny square. I'm going to go ahead and pull this thread back here just to close up my middle. So this is what it should look like. From here, I want to start my next round, and we're going to do that by using a stacked single crochet. And we're going to be working just ever so slightly backwards. So I'm going to start in this corner space, this chain 2 that we just finished on, and that is where I'm going to place my stacked single crochet as well as my other 2 double crochets. So I'm just going to take my hook, I'm going to go right into this open space. I'm going to do my single crochet. I'm going to go through the front loop, do another single crochet to create my stacked single crochet, and that counts as my first double crochet. From here I want to do 2 more double crochets in that same spot, so I'll yarn over, go right through that hole and do 2 more double crochets. There's 1, there's 2. Now I'm going to move on to my next space, which is this corner space here. Every time you come to a chain 2 spot, you're going to want to work a cluster of 3, chain 2 to make your corner again, and then another cluster of 3 all in the same spot. Right? So I'm not chaining 1 or anything right here. I'm just going to move on into my corner space, and I will put 3 double crochets all just right into this open hole here. Okay. I want to chain 2 for my corner, and then I'm going to put 3 more double crochets into this hole. Just like that. Moving on, our next spot is a chain 2 as well. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. So there we go. Just right into the open spot. There's 3 double crochets. Now I'll chain 2 to make a corner and do 3 more double crochets all into that same spot. Moving on, our next space is going to be this, which is a chain 2. So we're going to do the same thing, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, all in the same spot. Three double crochets, chain 2, 3 more double crochets. All right, moving on, our next open space is here. If you notice, this is where we had started, so it already has one cluster of 3 double crochets. So all it needs is the first one and the chain 2. So I'm just going to yarn over, go into that first spot, and I'm going to do 3 double crochets. Okay, the only thing that's missing now is the chain 2. So I will do that chain 2, and then I'm going to connect the round by doing a slip stitch into the top of our first double crochet here. So you see that's the top of the stitch. I'll go through both loops, yarn over, pull through everything on my hook, and then I'm going to tighten that stitch down. So that is the end of round 2. For round 3, we're going to start it the same way. We're going to be going into this hole that we just closed up, and I'm going to start with a stacked single crochet. So I'll go through, do a single crochet. I'm going to go through the front loop of that single crochet and do another single crochet. That is my stacked single crochet, and that counts as a double crochet. Then I'm going to do 2 more double crochets right there in the same spot to create my first cluster of 3. Alright, so now I'm going to go across the side of my square and look for my next opening, which is right here. And this is not a corner. There's no chain 2 there. It's just a hole in between these 2 double crochets. So we're going to put 1 cluster of 3 double crochets into this hole. Okay? So I'm just going to go through the whole thing and do 3 double crochets. Moving on to my next open spot, that's right here. This is a chain 2 spot, so I need to make a corner, which means I have to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, all into this same spot here. Got that? Moving on to my next open space, it's this one right here. There's no chain 2 there, so it's just going to be 1 cluster of 3 double crochets. Okay, moving on. Our next space is a chain 2, so that means we need to make a corner, which is going to be the 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, all in the same spot. There we go. Next spot is this one right here. No chain 2, so just do 3 double crochets like regular. Moving on, our next spot is a chain 2, so we got to do a corner. 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, all into the same spot. There you go. Next, just a regular space, so 3 double crochets. Next, this is where we started the round, so I'm going to put 3 double crochets and a chain 2 in there. After I've done that, I'm going to slip stitch into the top of my first double crochet to connect the round. And I'm going to tighten that stitch down. So this is what your square should look like after 3 rows. Pretty much every row is just going to be about the same. Every time you come to a regular side hole, it's just going to get 3 double crochets. 3 double crochets. Every time you come to a chain 2 spot, which should be always in the corner, it's going to get 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and then 3 double crochets, and then you'll just move on to the next side. So I'm going to start this with a stacked single crochet in my first corner hole right there. That counts as my first double crochet. I'm going to do 2 more. Then I'm going to move on to my next open spot, which is right here. Just a regular spot. It gets 3 double crochets. Next, this one is also just a regular spot, so it gets 3 double crochets. Next open spot is this corner. It's got a chain 2 there, so I'm going to make another corner, which is 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Just continue working this all the way around, okay? Back at the beginning again, I am going to put 3 double crochets in this first space where we started. And then I'm going to chain 2, connect my round with a slip stitch in the top of my first double crochet. Tighten it down. And now I should have 4 rows. I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I'll show you how to weave in your ends. I'm going to go ahead and cut off my yarn with about 4 or 5 inches to spare. Once you've done that, take your hook and pull your yarn out just right through the front there. Get your yarn needle out. Thread up your end. Now this piece is going to go through here, which should be under both strings of your first stitch. Pull it all the way to the back. Then I'll flip it over to where I'm looking at the back of my granny square. I'm going to weave it in and down a couple rows. If you feel comfortable leaving it like that, you can go ahead and cut it off. I like to do a little bit extra. So I'm going to untwist my yarn and split it in half. Like that. And then I take one piece and run it around some of the yarn in the general vicinity. And then from here, I'll just tie those two pieces together. At least 3 or 4 times. And then you can go ahead and snip those ends off right down to the knot. Next, we want to make sure the middle of our square is secure. So I'm going to take my yarn needle, thread up my middle yarn. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it tight. Make sure that the center of your square is all closed up. Now I'm going to take this yarn and I'm going to run it around the circle at least once, maybe twice, depending on how long this end is. And that's just to reinforce the center of the square, because sometimes people have said that the square can break open from the center because it's being held together just by 1 or 2. So we're pretty much just doing a little bit of reinforcing. After you've gone around once or twice, we're going to do the same thing we did before. I like to split my yarn in half. Thread up 1/2 of it and loop it under some of the yarns right next to it. And then you can take these two pieces and tie them together at least 3 to 4 times. If you don't want to do this, you can just weave in the end. After that, you can just cut the ends off. And you should be good to go. So that is how you make your solid granny square. Now I'm going to show you how to make a multicolored granny square where we change colors every row. The multicolored granny square is going to start the same way. We're going to do a magic circle. So I'm going to lay my yarn across my left hand with the end towards my pinky. Grab those, turn my hand over. I'm going to wrap the yarn around my first 2 fingers, over, under, make an X. Tuck this into your pinky to secure it. And then we're going to grab our hook. I'm going to go under this yarn right here, which should be on the bottom. I'm going to grab this yarn here, which should be on the top. I'm going to pull it through, and then it should be around my hook. I'm going to grab that same yarn again, pull it through the loop on my hook, and now everything should be secure, so you can go ahead and take your fingers out. And then you have a magic circle with a yarn end and a loop on your hook ready to go. I'm going to start the first round with a stacked single crochet. That counts as my first double crochet. So I'm going to do 2 more to make the first side of my square. Now I'm going to chain 2 to make my corner. From here we're going to do 3 more double crochets to make the next side of our square. I'm going to chain 2 to make my corner. I'm going to do 3 more double crochets to make the next side of my square. Chain 2 for a corner. And then we're going to do 3 more double crochets to make the last side of our square. I'm going to chain 2 again to make my last corner, and then I'll finish it off by doing a slip stitch into the top of my first double crochet in the round, And I'm going to tighten that down, okay? From here, you want to close up the middle, so I'm going to grab my yarn end and pull it tight. And then I'm going to be switching colors, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off my yarn. From here, I'll pull out that color, just like that. Grab my yarn needle and thread it up. I'm going to take my yarn needle. It's going to go through this hole right here, which should be the top of your first double crochet in the round. Pull it through. And then I'm going to flip over to the back. And I'm going to weave this yarn end down towards the center so that I can tie these two pieces of yarn together. Okay. I'm going to take my center yarn, thread it up, and I'm going to go around the circle just once or twice, just for a little bit of reinforcement so that the center of our square doesn't break open. All right, now that that's done, I'm just going to take these two pieces of yarn and I'm going to tie them together 3 or 4 times just to make it very secure. And then you can go ahead and cut those ends off. Now I want to do the next round in my new color, so take that color. I'm going to leave a tail of about 4 or 5 inches. I'm going to make a slip knot. I'm going to put that on my hook. Now I'm going to start in a corner because that's my only option on the first row. And I'm going to make a corner space. So I'm going to do 3 double crochets, just like that. I'm going to chain 2, 3 more double crochets, and that's my corner space. And then I'll just work all the way around until I get back to where I started. Just make sure you're following the regular granny stitch guidelines. If you come to a chain 2, you need to make a corner. If there's not a chain 2, you just do a regular 3 double crochets into that spot. Alright, so I've made it all the way around. This is where it should connect. So I'm going to put my hook through the top of the first double crochet that we did. I'm going to do a slip stitch, so yarn over and pull through everything on your hook. I'll tighten it down. And then I'm going to go ahead and clip off my yarn. You can pull it out towards the front. Now from here, I actually just take these 2 pieces and I tie them together. I try to do very strong knots, and I usually tend to tie it at least 3 to 4 times. And then after I've done that, I will just snip these right off. There is a little bit of the knot there, but once we do the next round, that's just going to get covered up when we have to do our 3 double crochets there. I've never had any problems with this coming undone in any of my projects, but if that makes you uncomfortable, you can always take the longer pieces and weave them down into the double crochets in the surrounding area. But I'm just going to tie them in a really good knot and then cut it off. I'm going to grab my next color of yarn and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to leave about 4 or 5 inches out. Going to tie a slip knot and I'm going to put that onto my hook. And then I will take my square. You can start on a side piece right here, or you can start in a corner. Either way, it doesn't matter. I guess I'll just start right here on the side. And since this is a side piece, there's no chains, it just gets the 3 double crochets. So there's my first one, second one, and the third one. Next space is a corner, so I need to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Okay. Next space is a side space, so I'll just do 3 double crochets. And then a corner. And just continue working this all the way around until you get back to where you started the row. Okay, I'm right back around to where I started the round. So we'll do the same thing. I'm going to go through the top of the first double crochet. I'm going to do a slip stitch, tighten it down, cut off my yarn. I'll just pull it out towards the front. And then from here, I will just tie those 2 yarns together a good 3 to 4 times. If you have yarn that breaks easily, this method will probably not work very well since you do have to pull tightly on these knots to keep them secure. So if your yarn is breaking too easily, then I would suggest weaving in your ends quite well. Okay, that knot is good enough, so I'll just snip off my ends. And there is my 3rd round. So right here is where my purple knot was in the last round, and as you can see, it's pretty much completely covered front and back. The next color will be the same. Pull it out about 4 to 5 inches. Make your slip knot. Put it on your hook. Start somewhere on a side piece and put in 3 double crochets. And then from there, you're just going to work all the way around. If you come to a corner spot, work a corner, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. If you come across side openings, just put your 3 double crochets in there, so on and so forth. Go all the way around until you get back to where you started. At the end of your row, do the same thing. Go through the top of your first double crochet, slip stitch, tighten that down, cut off your yarn, pull it through to the front, and then go ahead and tie those two pieces of yarn together. And there you go. Alright, so that is going to be it for that tutorial. I hope it helped you out. So now you know how to do a solid granny square as well as a color changing granny square. Give this video a thumbs up, let me know if it was helpful in the comments, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!